Hello everyone, hope that everyone's well and having a great day. Happy International Women's Day for all the girls tuning in and all of the boys as well. So today, to carry on with my Getting Real series, I wanted to talk about stress, which is obviously a huge factor in our mental health these days. We're always on about stress. Hey Sarah, good to have you on the line, chickie, thanks. We're always talking about stress. It's a massive thing in our society today, and the fact is stress has an enormous impact on our body. As most of us know, stress was, hey Melissa, stress is originally something that was intended to take us out of dangerous situations. You know, the adrenaline and cortisol that would be suddenly injected into our system accelerated us into action for running away from tigers, and as soon as we were back to safety, the stress response subsided and our heart rate and our hormone levels were all back to normal. These days, most of us live in a constant state of stress, and it impacts our health immensely. So stress has become an almost glamorous part of society, you know, all the time, and in our high-powered jobs and our rushing around from A to B without having time to ground, and our sleeping when dead mentality. It's almost like a glamorous thing, you know, people take pride in the fact that they sleep for 4 hours a night and they went out partying all weekend and now they're working all weekend and all week. And it's actually, what it does in our body is it affects our immune system, our digestive functions, it inflames our organs. Stress isn't actually cool, kids. Like, stress actually kills. So, hey Melissa, so it's really worth bringing to the surface, you know, how much stress is actually impacting your life. I would like to talk about something that I think impacts stress in a massive way, and that is the stress that we place upon ourselves through self-judgment. So this is something that I became really present to yesterday. For those of you who tuned into my live yesterday, I started to talk about my experience of self-harming as a teenager, and I experienced a very adverse physical reaction to this. As soon as I finished it, I felt absolutely exhausted, and I had to go to bed and have a nap instantly. I woke up, and I'm someone that never gets headaches, and I had a huge migraine. I went to go out and get food and water, and I was almost passing out. And also then later on in the evening, I was getting a huge, horrible heartburn. I basically just had to lie in bed just because of the pressure that I was feeling in my chest and my back. You know, in the kind of spirit junkie world, the solar plexus is actually just beneath our rib cage on our stomachs, and that is our center of self-worth in our body. And it was obviously something that really got affected for me. Because yesterday, you know, even though I was sharing something very real, hey Sophie, that a lot of people, if I can see some people hopping on, give me a like if you're watching with me. Yeah, even though I was sharing something that a lot of people thought was very brave with me being vulnerable, it actually made me feel very, very sick. Because over the years, I've cultivated this self-identity of, you know, feeling confident and strong and powerful, and actually, hi Gary, and actually, you know, self-harming and opening up to that really didn't fit in with my perception of that very nicely. So this was an issue of pride for me, not one that I was expecting, but actually my pride and my ego felt fairly shot to pieces last night, and it really highlighted to me the perfectionism with which with what I expect from myself, and the judgment that I project onto myself when I fall short of that. And living in that kind of mentality is actually it's highly destructive, because it invites a sense of guilt and shame into our life. And the stress caused in this situation is not a tiger chasing you. It's actually a story that we've created inside our own head, and it's actually just a delusion. So the story that I was telling myself was that I should be something different, and that I was wrong to share all that I am. And living in this delusion actually requires an unrealistic amount of mental and emotional energy, not to mention the fact that it's just a completely false reality. And as humans, we are actually, hey Simon, thanks for tuning in. As humans, we are generally very resourceful, and in every minute, we're simply trying to do the best we can with all of the tools available to us and all the knowledge that we have. To use another example, You know, I felt guilt for a really long time. Hey Lucy, I felt guilt for a really long time about the fact that I had been a bitch to my mother for years. And I turned this into a guilt story about the fact that I was a bad daughter, when in reality I was just using the tools readily available to me in order to create a distance in other aspects of our relationship and doing what I needed to in order to do that. So when we can accept that at the time we are doing the best, or we were doing the best course of action readily available to us, we can actually begin to release ourselves from these kind of awful guilt cycles and being wrong in our actions. And guilt and shame really blocks us professionally, blocks us in our relationships from expanding as a person, and most importantly from actually being present with other people and present to our experiences in every single moment on a day-to-day basis. We also start to see reality through kind of false eyes. And I hear people all the time say that they're punishing, you know, that they're punishing themselves for things that they did many years ago. Maybe they really hurt someone, maybe they finished a relationship badly, or they wronged someone in some kind of way. Actually, this is really poisonous and extremely harmful to you as an individual. And bad things often have to happen in our lives in order for good things to open up. It's just the way of the world. You know, opposites or things have to happen in equal measure. And you have just as much dark as you do light, as I was saying yesterday in my live. So thinking that you should be any other way is actually just a delusion, and we all kind of live in this sense of judgment about ourselves, in this place of should or should not. You know, I should be this and I shouldn't be this, and you know, you shouldn't have done that, you should have achieved more, all of this stuff. It's actually extremely dangerous words in the human language. When you tell yourself that you should be more, or that you should be doing more, you're falling into this kind of comparison game that you have not only with others, but also the comparison that you have with the perception of yourself. So when we live in this place of self-judgment, we actually detract from operating from a place of true service to other people and actual contribution to the world. When we're all up in our heads all the time, living in that kind of should mentality of self-judgment, it becomes all about us. Hey Sherry, it becomes all about us. We focus inwardly and we're very selective of our reality. You know, we look at reality to support our story. There's a really great exercise that Tony Robbins made us do when I went to his seminar, and that is where you look around the room and you look for only red things, and then he stops you and he says, okay, tell me what was brown. You know, we always look for things that feed our story, and we can't really see past that. So it means that we can't see clearly, and that we are projecting that onto others and sharing, rather than sharing everything that we are. So I'm going to ask you now what you beat yourself up for, and dig deep about why you beat yourself up for it. You know, what story have you created about it, and what are you making it say about you, and also what this is how this is impacting you in your day-to-day life, and the stress that you are putting yourself under as a result of this. You know, it's not stress that anyone else is laying on you. It's literally just a stress cycle going on inside your own head, based on a completely and entirely false perception and self-judgment. So I do think that stress would be reduced immensely if we were able to let go of this false perception and these kind of ludicrous expectations. And if we just got real with how much of our day-to-day stress is actually totally self-created. So that's just kind of something to get you thinking, and I would love to hear anyone's kind of revelations or thoughts about that. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow.